fruition. It's an anthology of black music, and it's called The Long Road to Freedom.
Also, we're going to talk about Howard Hughes, the reclusive billionaire, died alone except for the people he paid to be with him. There have been a lot of books written about him, but now author Richard Hack has written what he calls the definitive biography of Howard Hughes. We'll talk to Mr. Hack about that in just a few minutes.
He's such an interesting figure, so that must be a fascinating book.
Absolutely.
Anyway, lots to get to, but before we do, we've got another check of the weather from Mr. Roker. Al, it is such a pretty morning, isn't it?
Perfect fall morning, yeah. Although it's not fall yet, so it's still a perfect summer morning. And good advice, hug a nurse today. Where are you from?
Youngstown, Ohio.
Youngstown. What are you doing here?
Elizabeth.
Just hanging out?
Just on vacation.
Who are you here with?
My son and my husband.
All right. Well, you're sandwiched. It's a mom-nurse sandwich. We like that. And I got a buddy over here who's going, Al, show me some love. I love the hair. I love the hair.
How you doing?
I'm showing you some love. What are you doing?
Right. We're here with Urban Aid. We're doing AIDS awareness within the teen community, within the minority communities, the Latin American, the black communities. There's been an increase in AIDS. We're trying to aware the teens of what's going on.
Good.
Life be.
All right. Good advice. Thank you very much. I like this, though. That's happening. I want to do that. You know?
No problem.
Let's take a look, show you what's going on. Oh, sorry. Yeah, hold on. Let me just see here. That's what it would look like. Much better. Let's check your weather, see what's going on. For today, we've got a lot of cool weather in the northern states. We've got some hot weather continuing in the southwest and 80s as you get into the southeast with a lot of rain, up to 7 inches of rain in parts of Florida. Partly sunny in the Pacific Northwest. Seattle today, sunshine and 75. Sunny in the northeast and low humidity. Speaking of hair, what's the deal here?
Charles Worthington's big hair, girl.
Well, there you go. You certainly are. That's what's going on around the country. Here's what's happening in your neck of the woods.
Well, we've had a fresh, cool, dry air mass move in overnight. Good morning. I'm meteorologist Tom Kieran. We're up to 67 degrees here in Northwest and comfortably dry with a nice breeze coming in about 5 to 10 this morning. It may get a little gusty this afternoon, maybe 10 to 20 miles an hour with bright sunshine, highs reaching the low 80s. And we've got a cool evening on tap tonight. Ought to be widespread 50s for lows. And during the day tomorrow, the upper 70s for highs. Then Thursday, partly sunny. Could have a passing shower Thursday evening. Otherwise, dry weather all the way into the weekend.
Let's head down to Washington. Hey, Weller, look who's here. Mr. Peanut.
I love Mr. Peanut.
Mr. Peanut is here.
Is he salt-free and dry roasted?
No, well, he hasn't come out of his shell yet. He just...
Hey, have you ever done anything for Habitat for Humanity?
Yes.
Did you ever take a hammer and saw or
You bet. Yes, we did. We did. In fact, the Today Show did it a couple of months ago up in Harlem.
I thought you'd get a big kick out of this. Jimmy Carter, one of the nicest people in the whole wide world. A beautiful man, done so many great things. Here's his, where was it? Did you see his picture? Was it up there? And there you go. And some of his friends. And they're having their 25th anniversary. Can you believe that? Indianapolis, Indiana, this coming Saturday, the 15th. 25 years of helping humanity by building them a home. Can't beat that. And the people that actually live in the house help to build it, too. Check it out. Happy birthday and happy anniversary to Habitat, one of the great organizations. On the back of our Smucker's jar, Alex LeBlanc of Waltham, Mass. Independent fellow, loves being around people. Fondest memory is going to the airport with his friends in the 20s and flying with student pilots in open cockpit planes. How about that? Handsome dude. Molly Holtzberg of Coconut Creek, Florida is 100 years old, loves to read, loves theater, discussing politics, and loves a good party and being with people. A party animal, Molly, you old fox. Sidney Johnson of Glenmara, Louisiana is 101, wonderful homemaker, enjoyed taking care of her family, married a farmer, and loved it. Eat good down on the farm. Lona Snodgrass, Charleston, West Virginia, 104, still lives in her own house, likes to watch television, loves stories about the good old days. She is pretty, very pretty lady. Edith Chittick of Westlake, Ohio, attributes her longevity to strong faith, a strong spirit, always puts family first and loves golf, and she is a Greg Norman fan extraordinaire. Pretty hair. Finally, Charles Hill, Los Angeles, California. Look at that. He is handsome. He could be an actor. Good-looking, smart, good-looking man. Attributes his longevity and good health to living a stress-free life. Loves going to the beach and watching his horses win at the track. How about that? Man knows his business. Anyway, happy birthday to all. Now back to Matt in little old New York.
All right, Willard, thank you very much. Coming up, Katie talks to Harry Belafonte. But first, this is Today on NBC.
I'm Barbara Harrison. My Wednesday's Child reports have helped hundreds of local children find loving adoptive homes. And now you can help too with just a few simple steps. Join the Freddie Mac Foundation and NBC4 for the 12th annual Wednesday's Child 5K race for adoption. It's on Sunday, September 16th. Come run or walk to show your support for the thousands of local foster children still waiting to be adopted. Registration is free and there are great prizes. Log on to NBC4.com for more information. And thank you.
Oh, the wonderful thing about children is it never occurs to them that their dreams might not come true. My dream has come true. With hard work and some good financial advice, I just opened my 3rd child care center. We take care of hundreds of children every day. Our children are our future. They just don't know it yet.
Smart financial services from Mutual of Omaha, helping plan successful futures for over 90 years.
Why do the 4 giant bell phone monopolies want toes and dingles so badly? How about this? Section 4A states, neither the FCC nor any state shall have authority to regulate the rates, charges, terms, or conditions for any high-speed data service. Toes and Dingle will turn the 4 bell giants loose on America and then prohibit the FCC and all 50 states from protecting us. So, this is why our parents told us to read the fine print.
Just listen to my voice.
On September 28th,
look in my eyes.
On this quiet street, a stranger will arrive and pass his power to another. From the author of The Green Mile,
find the Queen of Hearts,
and the director of Shine,
tell me what you see.
This one here.
Anthony Hopkins.
Hearts in Atlantis, rated PG-13. Sneak preview September 15th, starts September 28th.
Nearly 50 years ago, entertainer Harry Belafonte embarked on an extraordinary project. He set out to research and record the music of Black Americans from the period of their earliest arrival in the New World in the 17th century up through the spirituals, blues, and folk music of the early 20th century. The work was completed 30 years ago, but it's only now that music lovers can enjoy this collection of songs. It's called The Long Road to Freedom, an anthology of black music. Belafonte was principal producer and one of many artists featured on this 80s song box set.
Well, it's free grace, my loving sister, free grace, I'm newborn again.
All right now, gather round the rails, boys. Turn that rail to your stomach. Head high, throw it away. Whoa, white man, he called me lazy.
Work like me, he soon go crazy.
White man, get me all the time.
Harry Belafonte, it's a pleasure to see you. Good morning.
Good morning.
I mean, to say that this has been a project that's been long in the making is a bit of an understatement. You started working on this back in 1954. Yeah. Tell me how it came about.
Well, America was just the threshold of a new period in its evolution. Brown versus the Board of Education had just come through the Supreme Court. There was an awakening to the whole issue of race on a level that America was just about to embark on that was very new. And I often felt that if people really understood more about one another, life could perhaps be dealt with in a more comfortable and meaningful way. And the best way to know one is through one's culture. And our music held so much of our history. And since I was an artist, since I had the platform of music, why not dig into our history through our musical expression and let people hear the songs that spoke to our trials and tribulations, our journey from the shores of Africa to the times of slavery, to the period of the Civil War, to the antebellum period, and the blues and the city and the rural. It was just a huge canvas of material that I thought America would delight in.
Oh, and such an incredibly rich history. And I understand that a lot of these songs were actually in an RCA vault for some 30 years. Why?
Well, when I originally started the project, RCA and Reader's Digest were the two companies behind promoting it. And both of them, at the end of the recording, dissolved their relationship. So we were left there with no home. And I waited, I thought it would take about maybe 2 or 3 years to find another place to lay it off. But it took 30 years, and now BMG found the archives, found the material in their archives, because they bought RCA. And in buying RCA, they inherited this volume of work. So they called me and asked me to come on board and have it released.
And I know you're thrilled. We have another example of some of the stuff in the some of the music in the anthology. Let's take another listen.
Goes and he pulled on the trigger. Bernie, you didn't bring old blue.
Oh, baby.
I know that you have said that much of the music we listen to today echoes some of the music we heard, say, 100 years ago or more.
What's astounding is that almost all of American culture, regardless of race, has most of its resonance deeply rooted in African music. And we take an awful lot for granted, whether you're in rock, or you're in rap, or you're in the Broadway theater, or almost any avenue of musical expression in America, you'll find resonance of Africa throughout the American culture.
And we were talking before we went on about what a fabulous teaching tool this could be for kids all across the country to learn so much about history and about ourselves through the music that we've, enjoyed for hundreds of years.
And remarkable men and women participated in this. Leonard DePaul, Sonny Terry, Brownie McGee, Bessie Jones, great artist by the name of Charles White, who did the artwork, and the text written by Marie Evans, a professor from University of Indiana. I think the work is not only scholarly, but there's a humanity to this that I think people really enjoy.
You must be very proud of it. Before we go, Harry, I want to ask you quickly about the World Conference Against Racism that was held last week in South Africa. You attended on behalf of UNICEF. You criticized the United States for pulling out when both the U.S. and Israel withdrew over condemnations of Israel. Disappointed with the United States about that, aren't you?
Yes, because I believe that the world is really in need of compassion, and the world is really in need of voices that will come to the table with reason and lead people to a new level of thinking. And the United States, which dominates so much of the world order, I believe has a responsibility to lead the world to a new level of thought, or at least open up debate, so that new information can come into the discourse, so we may be able to shape policies that are a little bit richer than the policies we've been applying all along, that doesn't seem to be taking us out of the abyss of violence, killing, anger, rage, and I think we should be less arrogant about how we use our resources.
Obviously, delegates left with sort of instructions on how to improve the situation in their respective countries. But do you think that this conference will really have an impact on the average person in the world in terms of racism, intolerance, etc.?
Yes, I do. I believe it'll be a while before a lot of the resonance from this gets into the mainstream experience. But it's a beginning, and remarkable men and women from all over the world of enormous intelligence sat at the table and debated issues that were most volatile. And I think conclusions were reached that will set a platform for future encounter.
Well, let's hope so. Harry Belafonte, as I said, it's a thrill to be with you. Thanks so much for coming in, and best of luck with your project. The anthology, once again, is called The Long Road to Freedom.
Thank you, Katie.
Looks wonderful. Up next, a new look at billionaire Howard Hughes. But first, this is Today on NBC.
Top Drawer, the interior design store, is having one of their famous, wild, irresistible clearance events. Absolutely everything in our enormous showroom has been reduced. Select from our multi-million-dollar stock of unique home furnishings from around the world. Almost everything is available for immediate delivery. Don't delay. Hurry into Top Drawer, your interior design store, where the smart shoppers buy.
Being in business, I know you've got to have a plan to succeed. That's why, as a candidate for governor, I have offered a detailed action plan for Virginia's future to improve education and transportation, create jobs, preserve open space, and protect our environment. We can do it with more effective management and real fiscal responsibility. To find out more, call or visit our website, because you deserve more than political promises. You deserve a plan and results. And that's what my campaign for governor is all about.
The Civic from Honda.
Hey guys, can you help us? We need directions.
It comes with an extraordinarily well-insulated cabin.
Why is it so hard to meet chicks anyway?
The window!
I do not know.
Amazing, but true.
While supplies last, get special APR financing as low as 3.9% for 36 months on 2001 Civics.
I'm Dr. Mark Groban, Chairman of the Mamsie Health Plan's MDIPA and Optimum Choice. We've partnered with the American Heart Association to bring you important heart health information.
One of the things I learned to do was to take my medication exactly as my doctor instructed me to. If you don't, your condition could worsen, requiring further medical treatment and costing you more money.
To start your way to a heart-healthy life, join us for the American Heart Walk Saturday, October 20th. For more information, call this number.
Howard Hughes lived the American dream. He was wealthy beyond belief, dated beautiful movie stars, and made record-breaking flights. But the man who could have it all for years just wanted to be left alone. Because of that, much of his life has remained a mystery until now. Author Richard Hack uncovers America's first billionaire in his new book, simply called Hughes. Richard Hack, good morning. Good to see you.
Thank you very much.
I'm fine, thank you. You say this is a different perspective on Howard Hughes because the other books have been written based on stories told by people who knew him. You think this is his point of view. How could that be?
Well, I made the effort to try to get inside his mind. This is you know, he was America's first billionaire, and he was a famous film producer after all. He did, you'll recall, The Outlaw with Jane Russell and the Breasts, and he won the first Oscar award for the best comedy film. He also flew around the world setting records. He also bought half of Las Vegas, and he also was America's #1 defense contractor, and he dated all those beautiful women that you know, Katharine Hepburn, Bette Davis, Lana Turner. But the fact was, this is a man that absolutely was elusive. To everyone who knew him, they knew him differently. So you interview someone, and they will give you a different story each time.
He demanded his privacy. He was obsessive about it, and yet he had the people who work for him keep detailed records of every move he made, from the time he ate to the time he went to the bathroom. Why?
This is the story. He did not have that done. They did it so they could keep track and refer to it, because he was so compulsively controlling that when he would talk to them, they'd have to know exactly what he was talking about. He had an incredible memory.
Did he know they were keeping these records?
No. He did not know they had the records, and when he found out about it, he wanted them all destroyed as they were going. He thought they were destroyed. The fact that they weren't destroyed would have killed him if he hadn't already been dead.
And it's some of those documents that were kept about him that you scoured to write this book.
Over 110,000 pages I rifled through.
You say he was known as a great ladies' man. However, you say perhaps that was a bit of a myth, that he was not all that great a lover. He dated Katharine Hepburn.
Yes, he certainly did. She moved in with him at one point, brought the maid, the butler, and the 3 dogs.
Why did she move out? What happened between the two of them?
Well, she found out that he was dating Bette Davis. That sort of puts a crimp on things, you know, when you think you're the only one. He proposed to all these ladies, mind you.
And then they'd all find out that he had somebody else on the side.
When Ginger Rogers found out, she threw a bag full of jewelry at him, only to learn the next day that he also repossessed her station wagon that he had given her.
We have a photo that I think was the last picture ever taken of Howard Hughes, and the weird thing is it was taken 25 years before he died.
That's right.
Why did he retreat so thoroughly from the public?
Well, for one thing, he didn't have to deal with them. He had so much money that he could lay naked in a bed, blacked out room, talking on the telephone, and do all his business. Everybody else was out there doing it. And on top of that, he was a sociopath. He didn't like people. He didn't like, even his aides, who were the only people he saw, he didn't allow to talk to him.
You talk about the cleanliness issue, the fear of germs.
Yes.
Perhaps a result of the way his mother raised him.
Definitely. She would wash him down with lye soap every morning. She would check his teeth like a horse. She looked in the toilet at his feces to see if there was tapeworms. But mind you, it was a time that there were...
This
This is a special report from News Channel 4.
Good morning, everybody. I am Jane Hansen in the News Channel 4 studio this morning to bring you some news. We are looking at a picture now of the World Trade Center, and we have an eyewitness on the telephone who tells us that he has seen an airplane crash into the World Trade Center. His name is Tony Arrigo. He is on East 12th Street. Tony, can you please tell us what you witnessed?
Yes, I can tell you what happened. I was taking the garbage out of the building when we heard this roaring engines coming. We looked up and there was a plane. Next thing you know, we heard boom. We ran up to the corner and hit right into the World Trade Center.
Tony, can you tell us what kind of an airplane is it?
I have got to interrupt you right now.
Sorry.
Richard Hack, thank you very much. We appreciate the book is called Hughes. We want to go live right now and show you a picture of the World Trade Center where I understand, do we have it? No, we do not. We have a breaking story, though. We're going to come back with that in just a moment. First, this is Today on NBC.
Tony, we don't have any confirmation from any officials of this happening. Just repeat again, you were just going outside.
I was bringing the garbage out to the freight entrance when we heard this roaring engine. We looked up and there was the plane. Next thing we know, in a matter of seconds, we heard a boom. We went to the corner, and there it was, right in the middle of the World Trade Center.
Where are you standing right now, Tony?
I'm right in the building right now.
Okay, and what do you see at this point?
Oh, people all staring up there, looking at it and all. Oh, my God, the smoke is coming out, black billow smoke.
Okay, you can see we are physically looking at one of our sky cams right now. We can see billowing smoke from the top of the World Trade Center, Tony.
Yeah.
Are there other people that are around you at this point? Is everybody in pretty much of a state of shock?
Oh, of course they are. People are all in shock. The people in the building are in shock, going out. My God Almighty, this is a real disaster. This is worse than the one that hit the Empire State Building back in 1939 or 38, whenever that was.
Okay. Tony, how long ago did you witness this happening?
Oh, come on, 10 minutes ago.
10 minutes ago?
That's about all.
Okay. And again, we're putting our camera in. We are pushing our camera into the top of the World Trade Center, and we can see that there appears to be some fairly significant damage to the top of it.
Oh, yes, there's got to be at least 15 floors that were hit with the plane.
Tony, you know, I'm keeping asking you to describe this for me because as I'm telling...
What had happened was I was taking the garbage out of the building to go into the freight entrance to dump it. When I heard this big roaring...
As Matt just mentioned, we have a breaking news story to tell you about. Apparently, a plane has just crashed into the World Trade Center here in New York City. It happened just a few moments ago, apparently.
And there it was, right in the middle of the World Trade Center.
Tony, we are looking at the World Trade Center as we speak. I can witness that there appears to be some things falling off of the building as we are looking at it.
It's got to hit at least 7, 8, 15 stories that had it banged into.
Uh-huh.
Oh, and it's halfway in the building.
Okay. And again, let me reiterate what we appear to be watching. Again, we have only an eyewitness and only what we are showing you on our live sky cam at this moment. But there does appear to be a plane of some sort that has crashed into the World Trade Center. If you look, it appears the top...
almost on the top. Almost
at the top. Okay.
Three-quarters up.
Yeah, at least three-quarters, if not, you know, very close to the top. But we can see that the building, there is a lot of structural damage and there is a lot of smoke.
Structure. Yes, ma'am. I just hope nobody I wish they weren't there. Oh, my God, this is a real disaster if anybody's gone to work.
Tony, thank you very much. We appreciate your sharing this, what you witnessed with us.
My pleasure. Thank you. I'm at 31 East 12th Street.
Okay, we are now going to go to another eyewitness, Ed Buda. Ed, can you please tell us what you witnessed?
All right, I was ready to get on the ferry, and people started yelling and screaming, and smoke and flames were coming out towards the top of the building. And I'm still on the ferry now, and I can see it. Smoke is coming out of both sides, so whatever went into it, it looks like it just went right through it. It's really bad. A lot of people, I just heard somebody say that they thought it was a 737 that went through the building.
But you, at this point, you cannot physically see any remnants of an airplane or anything such as that, can you not? Ed? Ed, are you still on the telephone with me? That was Ed Buda, another...
Did you see this weird story? Hear about this teacher down in Texas? who went out to get some fried chicken and spent 3 days in a sewer after falling through a manhole? Yeah, Kevin Funchess was rescued by firefighters last Saturday after he was finally able to reach his cell phone and call 911. He had fallen into a manhole last Wednesday night, and had been without food or water. He suffered muscle damage, dehydration, and irregular breathing. His family had been trying to reach him during the ordeal, but said he wasn't able to answer the phone because his head was jammed against the sewer wall, and his left side was pinned so that he could only move his right hand. Until Saturday, he was unable to maneuver his hand to reach the phone, which rang several times. He said he kept yelling for help, but nobody answered him. All right, I just got a news bulletin handed to me. A plane has apparently crashed into the World Trade Center, one of the very top towers on the World Trade Center up in Chicago. Or New York City, that's right, in New York. We will have details of that. You know, there are 2 buildings there that make up the World Trade Center. Just got a report a minute ago. We'll have details coming up at the top of the hour on that as they become available. But that's the news just now. Plane crashing into one of the towers on top of one of the buildings at the World Trade Center up in New York. Story coming up in just a minute. Fred, you got any further update on that?
Yeah, Dan, I just saw on TV. It looks horrendous. A huge amount of bale of smoke, and it looks like it's really done some damage. It looks like a serious hit.
Yeah.
And all we've got is this one sentence right here from AP, Dan. Hopefully more will be coming down as we speak.
You saw some video.
I saw the video, yeah.
Could you tell what type of plane at all?
No, all you could see was where the explosion had taken place and smoke still billowing out everywhere. A fire, I guess, has started now, and it looks pretty serious. It looks.
Now, do you know whether or not? Do we know yet whether or not it crashed into a tower above it or into the building itself?
Into the building.
Into the building itself.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, all right. Well, we'll be following that closely and keep you up to date on that, my friend. Wow. How could that occur? What type of a plane was it? A lot of questions to be asked, and we'll get those details just as quick as we can, my friend. All right, I'm giving you some strange stories about the guy in Texas fell in the manhole, stayed in there for, 3 or 4 days. This woman in Annapolis, Maryland, strange story. She woke up to find an unidentified man sleeping on the floor next to her bed. Imagine that. The woman reported hearing strange noises during the night, but didn't see anyone in her apartment. Early in the morning, she felt something or someone brush up against her hand. She ran to the kitchen to call for help. When she could not get her phone to work, the woman ran outside and summoned help. The responding officers believed the man lying on her bed, or on her floor in the bedroom, was drunk. Just wandered in. Whoa, is that a scary note, eh? Hey, my friend, we will take a 5-minute break for the news, get you up to date on the very latest, any breaking details that we have forthcoming on this report. All together, just one line so far, and that is that there's word of a plane crashing into the World Trade Center in New York. More details as they are forthcoming. Fred Story has got the latest news coming up here at the top of the hour. On the other side, another hour to go on the Dan Moon Show, right here at News Talk WTMA.
You're being mooned right here on News Talk 1250 WTMA.
Hi, folks. This is Dan Moon for Luden's at 78 Alexander Street in downtown Charleston. You know, every month I originate my show from Luden's, and I'm always telling you what a great place Luden's is for all your outdoor needs. Plus, I put D on the radio with me. And speaking of D, here he is to tell you more.
Thanks, Dan. Luden's carries clothing by Filson, Browning, Columbia, Barber, and Orvis, plus the Orvis Bat and Kill luggage that comes with a lifetime guarantee. Luden's also has name brands like Sebago, Lacrosse, and Chippewa outdoor boots. World-class fishing supplies like Orvis and Shimano. Boating supplies of all kinds. Plus, we have the Old Town canoes and kayaks and the Ambush boat, which is great for fishing and hunting. We also carry knives by Columbia River, Benchmade, and Leatherman with the Spydercos. If you enjoy the outdoors, come down and see us.
Hey, Dee, thanks very much. Hey, don't forget, too, we've got foul weather clothing, a great line from Henry Lloyd and Columbia. Luden, 78 Alexander Street in downtown Charleston. Headquarters for outdoor fun. Stop by today. Plenty of free parking, too. Luden, since 1867, a Charleston tradition.
Covering the city of Charleston, the Low Country, and the entire world 24 hours a day. This is News Talk 1250 WTMA. Charleston, a Citadel Broadcasting Station. Now, team coverage of Charleston's first news means local news first. Depend on it.
WTMA News Time is 9 o'clock. I'm Fred Story in the TMA 24-hour News Center. All eyes in the United States are on a breaking story that has just occurred within the last 5 minutes. Now, here's what we know. A twin-engine Cessna airplane flew right smack into the World Trade Center at the 110th floor. Now, a huge fire is there now, and authorities have not been able to get into the floor to see if there are any fatalities. Like I say, this is breaking news, and at this point, that's all we have. It's a twin-engine Cessna, flew right smack into the World Trade Center in New York City, the 110th floor. Now, the structural damage is, the building is intact, but you can see through video that a great part of the building has been obliterated by the fact that this twin-engine plane crashed right smack into it. You can depend on TMA First News and CBS News to keep you up to date on this developing story. The education community in South Carolina is anxiously awaiting results from the standardized test, and as TMA's Judy Harold reports, today is the big day. The PAC scores are being released.
The results of the third annual Palmetto Achievement Challenge test are released this morning. Judy Harold, TMA First News.
And Governor Jim Hodges kicks off his Strides for Education walk today in Clemson. We get that story from TMA's Worth Waring.
I assume the firefighters have got to get up there and, fight it from inside. If you're taking a look now, you can see that we've just had another explosion, and that is considerably lower. And is that in the other building? Is that what I'm witnessing?
That apparently does look like it is in the other building at this point.
And that looks to be lower, which means they're, obviously...
TMA First News.
A 46-year-old man is accused of stabbing his brother 8 times during a fight Monday at their home in Mount Pleasant. Police say Timothy Allen Jones was drinking with his brother at 12:45 a.m. when Jones allegedly stabbed his brother with a pocket knife 8 times. When police arrived, they found 37-year-old Van Clayton Jones lying on his belly in the yard, covered with blood. Timothy Jones says he lost it when his brother was using some Asian moves on him. He told police he was not going to let his brother injure him, so he says he went to work on him. Jones is charged with assault and battery with intent to kill. And a 19-year-old North Charleston woman is accused of threatening to kill a North Charleston police officer and the woman she is living with while charging at them with a knife. Shayna Johnson is charged with resisting arrest and assault with intent to kill. Bail was set at $100,000. Police say an officer was called to escort Johnson to get her belongings. It was then Johnson grabbed a knife from the kitchen and threatened her roommate. The officer stopped the woman at gunpoint and arrested her. We are now receiving more information into the WTMA newsroom that another plane has crashed into the World Trade Tower. Dan apparently is just coming in with some information.
Fred, this is just an amazing story. We got a report just before 9 that a plane had crashed into the, 110th floor thereabout of the World Trade Center, one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and just a couple of literally a minute and a half, 2 minutes ago, another plane crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Tremendous fireball as the other plane crashed into the other tower. Now, folks, I don't know, we're going to talk about this as we go along on this show this morning and keep you up to date, but I was listening to some of the commentators talking about it this morning, and we'll have a special report from CBS in just a moment. They were talking this morning about, it may be an accident, folks. Let's don't think terrorism right now. It may be an accident. It didn't look like an accident to me. It was a bright, clear day up in New York. Was not foggy, was not cloudy and overcast. And now with the second plane crashing into the other tower of the World Trade Center, I think that pretty well dispels any accident theories. It appears, folks, and this is just my opinion, it appears that there has been a deliberate attack. The only thing I can use is the word terrorism attack on both towers of the World Trade Center. And Fred, we'll continue to keep everybody up to date on this.
Thank you, Dan. And, of course, we will. CBS News and our entire newsroom is working on this at this time. And now let's go to traffic. WTMA First Traffic. And here he is, John Roberts.
Thank you, Fred, and good morning. The earlier accident's been cleared up and out of the way. Moderate traffic on most routes as you head out. Drive safely. Have a good day. John Roberts, TMA First Traffic.
Now let's take a look at your TMA First weather with AccuWeather meteorologist Kathy Francis.
A mix of cloudy and sunshine, warm and humid today. 1 or 2 showers and thunderstorms will move through the area. Today's high 86, partly cloudy overnight, chance of a shower, low near 70. For tomorrow and Thursday, breezy with clouds and some sun. Also the possibility of a couple of showers and a thunderstorm. The high each day 82 to 86. For WTMA AccuWeather, I'm Kathy Francis.
Thanks, Kathy. It's nearing 80 degrees right now. I'm Fred Story in the TMA 24-hour news center. You can depend on us to keep you up to date during the Dan Moon Show, and, of course, all during the day on the World Trade Center problems. Two small planes have crashed into both of the towers. I'm Fred Story in the TMA 24-hour news center. Next news at 9:30. Breaking news when it happens right here on News Talk 1250 WTMA. Depend on it. And now, ladies and gentlemen, here we go with hour number 2 of the call-in portion of the Dan Moon Show.
All right, 7 minutes after 9 o'clock here at News Talk WTMA. I'm Dan Moon. Let's go ahead and get the theme out of the way because I want to jump right in. Folks, I know by now you're just starting to sink in. Listen to what I'm telling you. There has been, I'm going to call it a terrorist attack, and I'm going way out on a limb, but that's my opinion, on the World Trade Center towers in New York. Shortly before 9 o'clock, or maybe, 15 minutes or so ago, 20 minutes ago, there was a report that there was this attack, that a plane had crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center, and just tremendous smoke and fire. And then just a matter of maybe 6, 7, 8 minutes ago, we got a report that another plane had crashed into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Tremendous fireball. I don't know whether you're following this or not. We're going to continue to follow it and going to talk about it this morning. Let me get Chester up here with us. Chester, have you been seeing any of this? What do you think?
I haven't had a chance to catch it on the television yet, Dan. I'm in my work truck right now going to work.
Yeah.
But I'm more inclined to agree with you. I believe it is a terrorist attack. You're not going to have two planes flying to two separate towers that are highly visible in New York City that people have been flying around for how many years now?
Gosh.
They know they're there.
Yeah.
I honestly believe this was an intentional attack.
Well, this was absolutely clear weather. When the first plane crashed into one of those towers, nobody wanted to right off the bat think it was a deliberate act. Some people were saying, hey, it could have been an accident, although skies were clear. And as you point out, planes have been flying around these towers for years.
Exactly.
The report we are getting, and again, things are coming in just spotty. Things are just popping in here. CNN, for instance, is quoting a witness as saying that it was a twin-engine plane that flew right in to the Trade Center.
Well, they do have twin-engine commuters that run around New York City, all up into the New England states. When I was in the Navy going to submarine school up in Connecticut, we had to access Groton through a twin-engine commuter plane. That is a possibility. If it's not a terrorist attack, then something has gone terribly wrong with the instrument guidance systems for these aircraft.
I can't believe that would happen to two aircraft. Within 15, 20 minutes of each other or less.
Exactly. I don't put it down to a glitch in the system. It can't be. I honestly believe this is an intentional deliberate act.
You remember terrorists attempted to and did a lot of damage to people and to the building itself a few years ago.
Right.
With the car bomb attack, down
exactly.
Now they have attacked apparently from the sky with these planes flying into the World Trade Center, both towers. Chester, let me go ahead. Any other comment?
Yeah, one more quick comment, and then I'm going to let you go and listen to what you got to say. I'm curious now to see how the United States is going to respond. I know how they'd have responded 40 years ago.
Yeah.
How are they going to respond now?
I don't know.
Let's wait and see what happens, and this will tell me whether I can continue to place my faith in a government that I'm not real happy with.
All right. Thanks,
Thank you, Dan. Have a good day.
You bet, sir. Ronnie, hi. Good morning. You're on News Talk WTMA.
Dan, this is the most spectacular event that I've ever seen in my life.
I got to agree with you, Ronnie.
I've been in war, and this is terrifying. I've lived in the Middle East. In fact, I used to work for a large aircraft company in the Middle East. But this is frightening.
We have yet to hear about any collateral damage on the ground. If a plane crashes into the side of a tall skyscraper, there have got to be all kind of debris falling down below. Still haven't heard any word on that yet. Can you imagine, though, and this is what gets me, I'm just absolutely amazed. When this thing first happened with the first plane crashing in, we were all just said, what? Do what? And my first thought was, and I got to say this, my first thought was, a plane has accidentally hit the World Trade Center. But then I got to looking at it and where it hit, and I started doubting a little bit, especially when I saw the clear skies. The clear blue skies. I'm not saying it couldn't have happened that way, but it just looked to me like this couldn't happen on a day like today. And then, all of a sudden, Ronnie, to get called back in again, is, whoa, wait a minute, another one has crashed into the other tower.
Within 18 minutes after the first hit, the second tower was hit. And looking at the video on CNN and Fox, this looks very suspicious.
Yes. I couldn't agree with you more. This has got us all glued right now. What are you going to do? What are you going to do the rest of the day, Ronnie?
I'm going to look at television. My prayers are with the people that, there's got to be some carnage in this building and on the ground. The fireball is so large that it's actually hitting the other building.
Yeah. You see, it's just I'm sitting here in just total amazement seeing this.
There's a wide shot now of the second crash, and you can see debris just falling all over
everywhere,
the place.
Yeah. Ronnie, thanks very much. Curtis, good morning. You're on the Dan Moon Show. Hey, Curtis? Okay, now I got you. Curtis, let's go.
Live, I heard you say it originally and flipped it over to Fox, and just in time to flip it over, I saw the other aircraft veer into the building, directly into it. It was a twin-engine jet. Looked to be approximately like an Airbus 300 or a 737. It was not a small plane.
Yeah. Looking at the amount of damage and the tremendous fireball that came out with that, as we were all sitting here glued watching and seeing that big fireball, I didn't see the plane. I was trying to run in 3 places at one time, but I thought to myself, gee whiz, it had to be bigger than a Piper Cub or something to create a fireball like that. Let me get Mac Thompson on board with us. Thanks for the call. Let me get Mac on board from our news center. Mac Thompson, what you got, sir?
Dan, we have this late report now from CBS News, so let's go to it.
CBS News Update. I'm Steve Kathan. 2 planes have hit each of the towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. This man not far away heard and saw the first.
I see a gaping hole at the top of the World Trade Center, almost to the top, not quite up there. I wasn't looking at it as I was driving towards it. I just heard a huge explosion.
That plane hit the upper part of one of the towers. Pictures from the scene showing flames and a lot of smoke pouring out of the building. Then an apparent second plane hitting the other tower. This man tried to help one victim who was nearby.
When I looked over, there was this guy that was on fire, so I kind of ran over, and I tried to put the fire out on him, and he was like screaming, and I just told him to roll, and he said he can't.
This man saw the first plane hit the building.
It didn't look like there was any trouble at all with the plane. He didn't swerve at all. He just landed directly in the building. It was like almost like a gray-black color in nature on the plane. He was like he wanted to fly into the building.
Again, 2 planes have apparently hit each of the 2 towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. There's been no word on casualties.
All right, there you go, the latest, and we are continuing to grab these reports as they come in this morning. We'd also like to give you a chance to share your opinions on all of this. What do you think? And I don't know whether I have the proper word to put on and affix to this situation in New York at the World Trade Centers yet. Maybe Joe can help me here. Hi, Joe. Good morning. Welcome to the show.
Hi, Dan. This is Joe. We just watched it, and it was terrible, Dan.
I know that word will be used over and over, Joe. Ever seen anything like this in your life?
I've never seen anything like this in my life, and if it was a terrorist attack, we need to go after them.
And soon.
Like today, Dan.
Yeah, and soon. I don't know. I don't want to draw any assumptions and conclusions,
but just looking at while we were watching TV, the second plane came in directly into the building.
I mean, did you sit there and just awe and say, I can't believe this?
We couldn't believe it, Dan.
You know, we talking to a caller a little earlier, Chester, I think, and he said, Dan, I've been in a war situation. I've been there. I've seen things like this, but this is absolutely astonishing that in this country, in New York City, that this type of attack could be carried out. Incredulous. Do you think we need to go back and revisit the original terrorist attack on the World Trade Center a few years ago, the bombing?
Yes, sir.
And maybe look at that same source of that same group?
Sure do. I think that Abu Nidal, or whatever his name is, terrorist, I think we need to go after him.
Yeah. All right. Thanks, Joe. Malcolm, good morning. Welcome aboard.
Yeah, Dan.
Yes.
Dan, don't you think you've been a little bit premature? You know, this last time when the...
Malcolm, let's don't pull any punches. It's good trying to be silly. This is a serious situation.
Saying, we said the same thing about the Oklahoma deal, and we went after, we said this was a terrorist attack, and it was not. I'm just saying that you're a responsible newscaster, and I'm just asking that you just kind of wait before you...
Wait for what? What am I doing wrong, Malcolm?
Well, you're talking about going after people. What would we have done it back in 1940?
Malcolm, get the hell out of Dodge. I don't need you on board this. I don't need your silliness in a time like this, sir. Just don't need it. Greg, good morning. Hi, you're on News Talk TMA, and welcome to the show.
Good morning, Dan.
Greg, hang on just a minute. I'm getting last-minute stuff just being handed to me here. The FBI is apparently investigating reports of a plane hijacking just before the World Center crashes. Now, that is just coming in. The FBI is saying they're reporting or investigating reports of a plane hijacking just before the World Trade Center crashes. So I just want to keep you up to breath on the very latest coming in. Anyway, I'm sorry. Go ahead, sir.
That's okay. I just want to send out prayers to everybody there, including the people, emergency services people, and the people who were killed and their families. I think the United States government, after this incident, we knew it's an accident waiting to happen or a terrorist act was coming, needs to change our policies and be able to go in and allow our military and or other agencies to search, find, and eradicate the people who are responsible for this. That's just my opinion.
Well, listen, that's kind of what it's all based on right now, because all we can do is share opinions. All the facts are not in, and I'll be damned if I'm going to take Malcolm's advice and wait till all the facts are in, and we'll never...
I'll tell you what, Dan, I do not think the American people will stand for another one of these.
I don't think so either. I really don't.
Especially the people of New York. And the bad thing about this is, and if it comes out to be that it's someone from the PLO or, somewhere in that area, the bad thing is that everybody is going to turn against people from those nations, and it's not always the case, but that's what's going to happen. Just like the movie, there was a movie, I don't even remember the name of it, with Bruce Willis, where he was the general who came in, and the FBI with Denzel Washington.
Oh, yeah.
This is a similar thing, and I could see that in reality happening. Round them up, find out who they are, and get rid of them. Thanks, Dan.
You bet. We are I think most of us, I summed this audience up this morning just in awe of what has transpired in the last 35 minutes here. Martin, if you will, hang on. I'll grab your call. I hope you can hang with us just for a minute. Got to take a quick break, short break, and then we'll be right back. Hang on.
Dan Moon. You don't get more hometown than that. Only on News Talk 1250 WTMA.
If you have plumbing problems, my friend, I share with you Advanced Plumbing, Heating, and Air in their number. 556-3611. Heating and air conditioning. You know, now's a good time. Really, here it is, the 11th day of September. You got to think now about your heating system. I mean, we're going to get into the fall months before long, and things begin to cool down somewhat. You may, after one of these nights, run a heater. You never know here shortly. Make sure it's working. Get it checked out. Hey, folks, if you'd like to upgrade to a new high-efficiency unit, save you big bucks on your fuel cost, call Advance. They can take care of your service or new installation, and no job too big or too small, giving you real value for your money. Advanced Plumbing, Heating, and Air, 556-3611.
Planning a fun weekend, huh? Well, where can you get a hot fudge sundae on a Saturday? Is that movie a tearjerker or a gutbuster? Where can you get the dirt on a bike trail? How do you get box seats without going in circles? City Search it and get all your answers on citysearch.com. Get the scoop on movies. Get tickets to the game. Get directions to the nearest chicken burrito. Hey, whether you want food, family stuff, or tickets to something fun, get everything you need for a great weekend on citysearch.com. Make the most of your city. CitySearch.com.
More than 2 million readers voted, and the results are in. Visit CitySearch.com to see the winners in this year's Best of City Search. Polls in dozens of categories, from the best coffee shop to the best romantic restaurant to the best used clothing store. All at CitySearch.com.
It's summertime, and a batch of steamed clams would taste so delicious. Or maybe you feel like fixing a big old pot of shrimp and crab gumbo, but you don't want the house to reek for weeks. Grab a bottle of Citrus Magic. Citrus Magic is a wonderful new odor eliminator. It's hypoallergenic, so even if you suffer from asthma, it will not affect you. In fact, it contains only 100% natural citrus concentrates. No chemicals. So next time your teenage son leaves his smelly shoes in the living room, next time Uncle Bob stops by with his stinky, nasty cigars, or your cat litter box is causing your house guests to check into a motel, grab the Citrus Magic, and your life will suddenly smell much sweeter.
Now for a limited time only, try a free sample of Citrus Magic by calling toll-free 1-800-554-CITRUS. 1-800-554-CITRUS. That's 1-800-554-CITRUS.
In today's world, there are many complex illnesses which may respond more effectively by using new, integrated methods along with traditional medical practices. Dr. Arthur LaBruce is an experienced medical professional who is a complementary and alternative medicine specialist. With over 25 years of medical experience as an ear, nose, and throat surgeon, as well as an allergist, Dr. LaBruce cares for his patients by not limiting himself to alternative methods. He looks at each patient as an individual to decide how to best meet their needs. Some of the diseases which Dr. LaBruce has experienced in treating include cardiovascular diseases, chronic fatigue syndrome, heavy metal toxicity, mineral imbalances, complications of diabetes such as vision loss, circulation disorders, and hypertension. For an in-depth discussion about your health concerns, call for an appointment with Dr. Arthur LaBruce, 572-1771, 572-1771.
When it comes to passion, he's full of it. Mike Gallagher, weeknights at 10, only on News Talk 1250 WTMA. Now, here's more Dan Moon.
Hi there, this is Jim Rose, your Berkeley County Supervisor, and I love listening to Dan Moon right here on News Talk 1250 WTMA.
24 minutes after 9 o'clock on the Dan Moon Show. Let's go right back. A special report just in from CBS News.
CBS News Update. I'm Nick Young. 2 airplanes have crashed into both towers of New York City's World Trade Center within minutes of each other, leaving gaping holes, flames licking up the sides of the 110-story buildings, and thick black smoke billowing into the air. This man, Steve Higgins, watched the second plane hit about 18 minutes after the first impact.
Another jet came from 903. Came from, let's say, South Ferry. It came up, and we saw the second plane, the second jet now. It wasn't just a small plane, hit the second tower.
There is no immediate word on injuries or fatalities. The White House has just announced that as of now, the crashes have triggered no national security alert. The possibility of a terrorist attack? CBS News correspondent Jim Stewart.
There's no confirmation that this is a terrorist attack, number one, or number two, that it's Osama bin Laden involvement. But I can tell you right now, that is what they are thinking. That is the working premise.
Once again, no immediate word on injuries or fatalities.
All right, that's the latest. And also one other addendum to that. Just a few minutes ago, literally, 3-4 minutes ago now, there was a huge explosion in the top of one of those towers. It just a huge explosion. Still don't know exactly what has caused that. Whether when these planes crashed in, and again, making what may turn out to be the wrong assumption, I don't know, that it was a terrorist act here. It could be that when the planes went in addition to initial explosions and debris everywhere, that there may have been some other things carried into the building as that the plane plummeted through the walls and into the upper floors of the World Trade Center building. But another explosion, don't know yet what triggered that explosion yet. Martin, good morning. Welcome. You're on the Dan Moon Show.
Good morning, Dan.
Good morning.
I think what Mark was trying to attempt to tell you that, we also got domestic terrorists here in the United States, too. But I would hate to think that any American would get that crazy.
Yeah, I would too. I knew where he was trying to go. I really did. He was accusing me of making an assumption, and I just simply said terrorist act, and I think that's what it is. Leaving it up to you.
It don't matter who the terrorism is terrorism, man. No matter who's committing it.
Oh, absolutely, absolutely. How do you feel right now with this knowledge that's just been unraveling over the last, say 45 minutes now?
Well, if it's domestic, we got laws to take care of it. If it's foreign, then we'd have to let somebody know that America's nobody to play with.
Yeah. Do you agree that we need to do something in a hurry?
Oh, I wouldn't waste any time. I mean, I would make sure you got the right target before you react.
There's no two ways about it. Yeah, we must do that.
Yeah.
Martin, thanks for the input. I appreciate it. Hi, Rick. Welcome aboard. Good to have you, sir.
Hey, Dan. How are you this morning?
I'm fine. I say I'm fine. I'm just absolutely in shock.
Yeah, I saw the pictures of this second plane that just hit the building. It was a definite, in other words, they meant to do it. They believe now that the fuselage entered the inside of the building and then exploded. That's where the second explosion came from.
Yeah, I was trying to put it into those words a minute ago. I'm sure that when the plane impacted the building and went through the exterior walls of a building, there was a good bit of that aircraft, or fuselage in this case, that penetrated on into the inner areas of that building. And I'm sure there were other, and there may have been other explosives still packed within that fuselage.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Dan, there's only one thing we can do if it's these foreign countries like the Arab countries and stuff that's doing this, there's only one thing to stop it, and that's to show them our power. They don't believe in negotiations. They believe in power. We need to introduce them to Adam if that's the case. And you know who Adam is.
Oh, yes. Yes.
And that's exactly who we need to introduce them to.
Just throw out for conjecture. And again, we don't know this to be the case, but let's face it. In that report from CBS, we're not. Nobody is saying officially that this was a terrorist act yet. The White House has not. It was reported a minute ago, has not issued any kind of a national security alert of anything. And I don't know whether they would tell us what is on their mind or not. This is an attack on this country.
Yeah.
No two ways about it, whether it's from within or outside.
Well, now they had an alert. I can't remember exactly who it was from this past weekend because of the reparations thing. They had some type of alert for Americans. Now I have no idea if that's
related in some way?
Related in any way with this or not.
Well, It could be.
But it's a sad day when something like this can happen to America.
Well, I'm just, I don't know how to describe my feelings now other than to say that I'm almost in shock.
Yeah, it was a definite, an attempt to destroy the complete building the way that plane went in.
Yeah. Rick, thanks for the input. Thanks for your opinion. What is your opinion, folks? Is this whole stuff just sinking into you now? Let me bring you up to date very quickly. Shortly before 9 o'clock this morning, there was an initial report that a plane had crashed into one of the towers of the World Trade Center. You know, there are 2 towers up there in New York. Same buildings that were attacked by terrorists a few years back with the bombs that exploded from underneath the building in the parking garages. Now there apparently has been, and let's say this, I hesitate to use the word tact in a way to say that's exactly what happened, but it certainly appears. It appears from looking at this that it may have been a deliberate attack on these World Trade Center towers. This time from the air. Like I said, shortly before 9, the report was that a plane had crashed into around the 110th floor of one of the World Trade Center towers. There was fire, explosion, and then smoke and flames billowing from those top floors of the World Trade Center. And then, to our just total shock and amazement, as we're witnessing that, we see another plane, a small jet-type plane, come in and crash into the other tower of the World Trade Center. Dan, good morning. Hi, welcome to the show.
Hey, how you doing, Dan?
I'm fine. Give me your feelings, what you're going through right now. What are you thinking?
We've got a president who I feel like will react accordingly. That's about it for today.
All right, Bush, I understand, he was in Florida, and the report is now that he has just a few minutes ago left Florida, heading back to the White House to be on top of this. Anyway, we're going to keep you up to date on this. Thanks very much, Dan. Your opinion is welcome, folks. That's all we can do right now at this stage of the game is express our feelings that are on our mind. What do we think about this? What's going through your mind? I told you for the last let's see, since shortly before 9. When do we actually get the word on this? About 5 or 6 minutes. About 5 minutes till 9. We were in the middle of the show here and beginning to wrap up the first hour when someone opens the studio door and says a plane has crashed into the World Trade Center. And we said, huh? And then before we could even think any more about it, the word came down with a bulletin from the Associated Press confirming that. And now the story is still coming out. And another plane has crashed into the other tower. Patrice Smith with News Channel 4 is on board with us. Patrice, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Oh, God. What a situation.
It is a terrible situation. You know, President Bush was just gave a press conference. He was down in Florida at a school about to talk about education.
Yes.
And, of course, he was there at the time of the apparent terrorist attack, and that is what the president himself is calling it against the World Trade Centers. And he says he has contacted the FBI, the vice president, and also the governor of New York. And according to witnesses, it was first a twin-engine plane that flew right into one tower of the World Trade Center. That was about 8:42 this morning. And then about 18 minutes later, a 737 flew into the other World Trade Center tower. At this point, there are no reports of any injuries. However, we can imagine, obviously, that there will be. And at this point, also, the FBI is investigating reports of a plane being hijacked just before the World Trade Center crashes. So we will continue to update you on this situation. As I said, President Bush was in Alabama. He has now left, he was in Florida. He has now left Florida, going back to the White House so that he can attend to the situation. But he says that terrorist attacks against our nation will not be something that's going to be taking place.
The president has referred to it as a terrorist attack.
Yes, the president is calling it a terrorist attack, and he says the U.S. will not stand for it. He is on his way back to Washington at this point to attend to this matter.
Patrice, you've seen the video, obviously. You've watched this unfolding. What's going through your mind as a journalist this morning?
I'm just wondering who the heck is doing this. And we know why. I mean, you know, the U.S. is always coming under attack verbally, and, you know, there's so much so many countries around the world against us. But I'm just shocked. I really am. I'm just shocked. What were your views?
Well, you just summed it up. Shocked. And I feel like I still am.
I really am, too, because we were sitting here and we actually watched it, and it's hard to believe that somebody would actually do this. I mean, you know, the last time we actually heard of anything like this, or that I have, was, you know, back during the Second World War.
Yeah.
You know, when the Japanese would fly, you know, their suicide bombers into ships and all that type thing. But I think it is just sick that somebody would be so, you know, so desperate against policy.
The FBI is reporting that they're apparently investigating a plane hijacking just before this occurred.
And so there's no telling at this point where that plane was from. However, we will continue to monitor the situation, and we'll keep you updated as more information becomes available.
Well, Patrice, thanks very much, and we'll appreciate that update from time to time.
Okay.
All right, thanks, Patrice Smith over at News Channel 4, giving us the latest that they have over in their news center this morning. What do you think about all of this? We'll talk about it throughout the morning. We've got the latest update again. CBS is continuing to give us minute-by-minute updates on the situation. Let's go straight to CBS News now and get this latest update.
Souter was saying if the political branches have to resolve this, like Congress, it may be messy, but it's still a more legitimate result, whereas Justice Kennedy believed that this whole thing was chaos and the country would suffer.
Obviously, the wrong report there. Now, I think we can. Please understand the confusion. We're working in a rather hectic situation this morning too, trying to get all the latest stuff in here. I think we have it lined up now, Mike. Let's go to it again. CBS News and the special report.
CBS News Update. I'm Steve Kathan. Both towers of the World Trade Center in New York City are burning, smoke pouring from them after 2 planes hit each tower. The impacts triggered explosions and fire. WCBS air traffic reporter Tom Kaminsky.
LaGuardia Airport has said there are 2 confirmed aircraft into the World Trade Center, and they want no one at all in this area. They are, in effect, if you can possibly picture this, cordoning off the entire area around the World Trade Center and around Manhattan.
The planes hit the towers about 18 minutes apart. Witnesses describing them as twin-engine planes. There's been no firm word on casualties. This man saw one of the planes hit and says it looked deliberate.
It didn't look like there was any trouble at all with the plane. He didn't swerve at all. He just landed directly in the building. It was almost like a gray-black color in nature on the plane. He was like he wanted to fly into the building.
The FBI, according to the Associated Press, is investigating reports of a plane hijacking just before the crashes. CBS News correspondent Jim Stewart covers the Justice Department.
Right now, they are trying to determine whether, in fact, it was deliberate. They have no information they can share at the moment, and I get the sense that they're in the same mode that we are.
The White House says President Bush, who's now at an elementary school event in Florida, is aware of the incident, and he's heading back to Washington.
All right, and of course we just got the report immediately after that CBS report that President Bush has indeed left Florida and is heading for the White House. Just before he left, we got this report from the president.
And to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down and to find those folks who committed this act. Terrorism against our nation will not stand. And now, if you join me in a moment of silence. May God bless the victims, their families, and America. Thank you very much.
So Bush is en route now, heading back to Washington and the White House. Kelly Golden, reporter, has a sister who was up in New York and right there near that area at the World Trade Center, and she's on board with us now on a cell phone, and I hope we can remain in contact here for a few minutes. Her name is Alon. Alon, good morning.
Good morning. How are you?
Where were you when all this started?
I was on the Staten Island ferry on the boat going into Manhattan. I have a view of Manhattan and the World Trade Center on the boat. We're in the middle of the harbor.
Where are you now physically?
I am now back on Staten Island because the boat was turned around the middle of the harbor.
Okay. The first... Go ahead.
Go ahead.
I was going to say, the first plane that crashed into one of the towers...
I missed the first plane, but I will tell you that my father called me and told me to go to the front of the boat, and he said that the World Trade Center is on fire, something has happened. So I went to the front of the boat, and nobody had figured it out yet. So I was out there for about 7 minutes, and a Boeing 747 passenger plane came right over the ferry boat, very, very low, at ultra as fast as it could go, and went right into the right hand, the second.
Now, you're saying it was a Boeing 747?
That's exactly what it looked like. It was a passenger plane. From what we hear here, there was a hijacking just before this happened, and this was not an accident.
Let me make sure I understand now, Lon. You said you're on the ferry.
I'm on the Staten Island ferry.
You were on the Staten Island ferry. You did not see the first plane crash into the building.
I did not. But I was.
But you saw But you witnessed. Did you look up and see any of the smoke and all of this coming out?
I saw the smoke. The whole plane was smoking. You have to understand that Staten Island, our view is of Manhattan. So we leave on the boat and go directly over to Manhattan, and we have a full view for 30 minutes.
So while you're sitting here on the Staten Island ferry and you're looking up at the World Trade Center and you're seeing the smoke billowing out from the first plane crash,
that's right.
Then you're telling me, if I understand you right, that a Boeing, now are you sure it was a 47 or a 37? Anyway, it was a large aircraft.
Let me tell you that it was large, okay? It was big enough to scare me when it flew just over our boat.
Now, can you give me an idea when you say it was very low and flew over you? I know it's kind of hard to judge distance, but this plane crashed up a good
to hunt down, in his words, the people responsible for this. He will now travel back to Washington, and aides are telling us now that he will immediately convene a national security meeting to see what steps are taken next.
David, I'm sorry to interrupt you, but we're looking at live pictures of the Pentagon where there is billowing smoke. Jim Miklashevsky just reported that he heard an explosion
at an angle and went right through the building.
Okay. When you saw the second plane, this large Boeing 747, as you describe it, coming in low and then turning and angling right into that building, what was going through your mind, Alon?
Well, I mean, that's a kind of a daft question. I can't tell you that. I mean, what do you know when that happens? It was just everybody in the boat we have people here who have people in the, who work in the World Trade Center. You have kids screaming and crying, and, everybody grabs their mobile phone, and nobody gets service because all of the service runs out of the World Trade Center. The only reason I'm able to talk to you now is because our boat was turned around in the middle of the harbor, thank goodness, and redirected back to Staten Island. All services are closed in Manhattan. No trains are running, as far as I know.
When you saw the plane actually hit the side of the building, and a big fireball came out.
It was an explosion, yeah.
Now, I mean, at that particular moment, I'm sure, did you say something like, "Oh my God," or?
Well, I knew I was witnessing history right in front of me, and I wish I had a camera, I'll tell you that.
Oh, boy.
I already had a friend call me over from Amsterdam who was up late watching the news, and he called me on my mobile phone, and they already know about it there.
Well,
I'll tell you that President Bush may be having a moment of silence, but New York and Manhattan is in chaos right now.
I'm sure it is.
Exactly what was intended.
All right, Alon, can you hang on just for a moment?
I will try.
Just for a moment. We'll take you off the air, but if you can hang on just for one moment. Alon, Kelly Golden, one of our reporters in our news center, that is her sister. And as she reported, she was taking the Staten Island ferry into Manhattan. And as she crossed the harbor there, she looked up and saw the smoke. Didn't see the first plane hit, but saw the smoke and the flames. And as she's sitting here, all these folks on the Staten Island ferry with a view. I mean, she had to have a great view of this. And then this other plane, she reports this, she's had a 747, Boeing 747, that came in low right over the ferry and then made an abrupt turn and just angled right straight for the other tower of the World Trade Center this morning. It is 9:44, News Talk WTMA. Let's, Madeline, where are we standing here now? Do we want to go...
Let's go to CBS News Live right now.
Fires continue to burn in both the twin towers of the World Trade Center in New York City, the tallest buildings in New York City. 2 airplanes hit those buildings this morning at about 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time, and then at about 9:03 a.m. Eastern Time. And now at about, 9:40, about 5 minutes ago, something has started a fire at the Pentagon. We don't yet have any eyewitness reports as to whether it was an airplane, an explosion of some sort. Let's listen again to WUSA-TV, Washington.
Yes, I did. We're standing in the USA Today Towers at 1000 Wilson Boulevard, and as we were getting ready to record we watched what appeared to be a huge explosion over top of the Pentagon. At that point, we were immediately told to evacuate the USA Today towers. As many people know, they're very tall towers that overlook Washington, tall silver towers. And the picture that you're seeing right now is actually taken from a camera that is on top of the USA Today building.
We're getting a report, Lauren, to see if...
An Associated Press reporter in the area of the Pentagon did see the tail end of a large airliner, that's the way he put it, plunge into the Pentagon. So right now there are 3 fires, 2 in New York in the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center, the 3rd at the Pentagon, that's the United States Defense Department, on the Virginia side of the Potomac River in the Washington, D.C. area. Speaking now is a reporter of USA Today who works in that area, Lauren Ashburn.
25 of them screaming down Route 110 here in front of the USA Today headquarters.
All right, Lauren, stay on the phone with us, can you?
Lauren, where are you now?
I am on the 18th floor of Tower 1 of USA Today headquarters building.
And she is looking out right now toward the Pentagon. Let's see if we can get some more live coverage from New York City, where all this began about 1 hour ago. Can we go to station WCBS New York?
The first one come in, I didn't know what it was. It sounded like a missile.
You're seeing evidence of a destruction on the ground. There are shoes, bloody shoes. One man, people are weeping coming out of there. Some of them have been through this now for the 2nd time. They had to walk down the stairs. They're just walking in a stream up east to get away, far away from the building. There have been windows blown out. There's glass on the ground. And you can't, the phones are like jammed. People are trying to call home. It is just, this is the big event that the New York City Emergency Services have been training for, and by all accounts, they're doing a fine job.
You're at the Millennium Hotel. You can't get much closer than that, though, can you?
No, well, if I could get to the other side, I think I might get some information, but you can't get through, really.
Well, there's a reason, all the debris.
Yes, and they think it's still dangerous with things coming down.
Okay,
I'll get there, though.
All right, thanks, Mary Gay Taylor.
We will talk to you again. Mary Gay Taylor, live from Lower Manhattan.
We should mention the trading did not even open. There was no opening bell on Wall Street this morning. There has been no trading to this moment. They're talking about keeping the NASDAQ computerized trading systems going. They're talking about starting trading on NASDAQ at 10 o'clock this morning. We don't know how it's going to play out on Wall Street, the New York Stock Exchange, being so close to what's gone on this morning here in the city.
If you're just tuning in, you've been hearing us talk about these 2 planes crashing into each tower of the World Trade Center just about an hour ago, the first one. Well, just a few minutes ago, a plane crashed into the Pentagon in Washington, and now the West Wing of the White House and the Capitol building have both been evacuated amid concerns over terrorist threats. President Bush is not in Washington. He is in Florida, where he spoke a little while ago and told us that he believes this is a terrorist event and that he is going to try to track down whoever's responsible for it.
Pat, when he spoke, it was about 10 minutes before the blast at the Pentagon.
He didn't have that information yet. No,
he just knew about what had transpired in New York City, that there was what he called an apparent terrorist attack. And again, the FBI is investigating at least one of the planes that crashed into the World Trade Center was hijacked in Boston. We don't know, though, when that happened.
The president is calling this a terrorist attack. City firefighters are being called in to battle the fires at the towers. They're calling it a total recall. They want any firefighter in the city to come down and help. Bridges and tunnels into Manhattan are closed. Air travel is shut down, and the subway system is also shut down. You can't get into Manhattan, and you probably can't get around too easily in much of Manhattan.
One of our reporters has reached the World Trade Center finally, and it's a long, difficult trip this morning. Let's go to WCBS reporter Sean Adams. Exactly where are you?
Well, right now, you really can't get much farther south than the southern tip of City Hall Park. Broadway there, everything is shut down. And here's
breaking news on WCBS 880, right here, right now.
Every time we think it can't get any worse, we are now learning that the FAA is shutting down all takeoffs anywhere in the country. No planes can take off anywhere in the United States. That is the word from the FAA just a moment ago.
Sir.
More from CBS News.
CBS News Update. I'm Nick Young. President Bush says the U.S. has apparently been the target of terrorists.
Today we've had a national tragedy. 2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
Mr. Bush vowed to find those responsible.
Terrorism against our nation will not stand.
The president was in Florida when he made the statement. CBS News correspondent Mark Knoller is with the president in Sarasota. Mark, what's the plan for dealing with this tragedy?
Well, the president has scrubbed his speech here in Sarasota. He is on his way back to the airport to get on Air Force One and go back to Washington. It's our understanding he will meet with members of the National Security Council. These are the highest-ranking U.S. officials dealing with national security matters. They include the Secretaries of State and Defense, the CIA Director, the Treasury Secretary, and, of course, his National Security Advisor. The president has vowed that this act of terrorism against the United States will not stand. It is not clear whether or not the president will be able to get in the White House because the White House is being evacuated for fear it is a target of a terrorist attack as well. But it's at least a 90-minute flight back to Washington from Sarasota, so they will have some time to figure out where he will go when he gets there.
There may be other attacks underway on the Washington area. The Pentagon has been evacuated because of a massive fire there. And there are reports that an aircraft has crashed into the Pentagon, triggering that fire. There are also reports of a fire on the Washington Mall. Late word from Washington, quoting the Associated Press, that the Federal Aviation Administration has closed down all flights nationwide. A U.S. official to return to the Trade Center crashes. A U.S. official says the first plane to hit the Trade Center was hijacked after it took off from Boston. There is still no word on injuries or deaths. CBS News Update. I'm Nick Young.
No real doubt right now, Dan Raviv continuing our CBS News coverage from Washington, no real doubt that the Pentagon was hit by an airplane. Let's see if we can catch part of what an eyewitness in Washington is saying.
Yeah, thank you very, very much.
I'm sorry, we just missed the NWUSA TV, our CBS affiliate in Washington, interviewed Dawn Vignola, who was a witness, and she said that she saw an American Airlines airliner plowing into one part of the Pentagon, the part that's known to be a heliport there at the headquarters of the Defense Department. She said it was an American Airlines passenger plane, from what she could tell, apparently hijacked, and that's why the FAA right now has grounded all flights throughout the country, apparently a move to prevent any more hijackings. Here's another witness as to what occurred at the Pentagon, where there is thick smoke billowing out from the Defense Department. Let's listen right now. Dave Statter of Channel 9 WSA TV.
To the side of the building. There's a bit of a hole on that side of the building. Arlington Fire and Rescue, military fire on the scene putting foam on it. The plane did not seem to go into the building like the World Trade Center attacks. It seemed more to glance at the side of it and certainly do some damage to the left side of the building. But it's right, if anybody's coming up Washington Boulevard, which is still open amazingly, northbound, it's right where the helipad is. Believe this when I tell you, everybody here is scanning the skies looking for a possible attack. Every fire and rescue crew has been told to be aware of that. Every police officer has been told to be aware of that. We cannot tell you at the moment, and as far as casualties, any injuries at the moment.
That's a reporter here in the Washington area for WUSA TV, Dave Statter at the Pentagon, where a fire is broken out.
The building is certainly, but it did not seem to be a gaping hole like we saw at the World Trade Center. I can't even tell you what size plane it is because it's pretty much consumed. Should be getting a live picture from us shortly.
Let's right now go to the White House area. The White House grounds evacuated for the sake of security. CBS News correspondent Bill Plant.
We understand that the Treasury is also being evacuated. There's a lot of activity, fire trucks, ambulances, but as far as we know, there is no damage in the White House complex. I repeat, no damage that we know of in the White House complex. But this was in response to damage elsewhere, to the New York aircraft incidents and to whatever it was that happened at the Pentagon. But this is a full alert. The Secret Service has moved everybody away from the White House grounds, away from the White House complex, and they keep telling us that we have to remain a block away. There are fire trucks going by, ambulances going by, headed we know not where. But this is obviously a precautionary measure because no one clearly knows what to expect next.
That's CBS News White House correspondent Bill Plant. Let me note this. Although the Federal Aviation Administration has grounded all flights all over the country, there is an Air Force plane, Air Force One, that apparently is about to take off from Sarasota, Florida. President Bush is now aboard that plane. He scrubbed the rest of his schedule in Sarasota, Florida. He was at a school when these events took place. If you're just joining us right now on the East Coast, it's 9:55 in the morning. At 8:45, an airplane hit one of the Twin Towers of the World Trade Center in New York City. 18 minutes later, a second airplane hit the other tower of the World Trade Center. There's a very bad fire in the upper stories of both those buildings. And then the Pentagon in the Washington area was hit, but not as severely, though there is a fire and there is smoke. Let's go to WCBS TV in New York.
And I put if in capital letters. If we are talking about two commercial aircraft plowing into the World Trade Center.
It's an unbelievable scene here. If we can look around behind us, we've got, sir, could you please move a little? We've got a helicopter taking off over there, and what we were told was that this field was being set up as a medevac location. There are at least, scores and scores of. Now this one's coming in to a closer vantage point. We've had scores and scores of ambulances in the area here. That helicopter is in fact taking off. He was just circling around to get a better angle of attack on his takeoff. As far as the fire control, we have no idea as to what that situation is, but debris continues to rain down from up above. And as of about 5 minutes ago, we were still seeing fire on some of the floors of World Trade. Now, I saw the second plane hit. I did not see the first plane hit, but the second plane was an unmarked silver fuselage. It appeared to be twin engine. I couldn't tell if it was prop or jet, and it took a slight bank and went right into the side of World Trade 2, and having had the first one go in, the second one obviously appeared to be a suicide flight. So the only thing that we can assume here is that they were both suicide flights going in. And as I said before, there's unconfirmed word that even a third plane was on its way here. The disposition of that, we don't know. Now, the studio, I can't hear you right now, but let me go back to you.
John Slattery, thanks very much. He's over at West Street. And
we're listening to live coverage from station WCBS TV New York. Again, in New York City, both buildings of the World Trade Center, 110 stories tall, have been hit by airplanes. According to federal officials, airplanes that were hijacked, apparently from Boston. And in the Washington area, the Defense Department, yes, the Pentagon, was hit also by an airplane apparently deliberately steered into the Pentagon. We get some live coverage now from there, station WUSA TV.
Word on Katzman?
No, but Kathy on Kessel.
No, not getting a good signal on that. Try one more time.
American Airlines Boeing 767 out of Logan. This is the second aircraft. We don't know whether or not this aircraft was, as earlier reported, a United Airlines aircraft.
Again, some confusion as to what airplanes were hijacked and indeed what happened to the people, including perhaps the flight crews that were on board. Now, 3 planes that have apparently crashed deliberately into landmark buildings here in the United States. By the way, a report now from Chicago, the Sears Tower, by far the tallest building there in the Midwest. The Sears Tower has been evacuated for safety's sake. At the Pentagon, military officials tell reporters that apparently it was an airplane that hit the building, causing a big fire.
It looks like a lot of them were either on the floor of one of the exchanges. Oh my God! Oh my God! Oh my God!
We're not sure exactly what happened, but there was another explosion on the far side of one of the buildings from where we're standing. The reverberation and another explosion on the right-hand side. Another building has gone. Another building has gone up on the right-hand side of the road. People are now running down the street.
And right now, all the firefighters have been called back to duty in New York City. Let's get more coverage from the CBS television network.
Shortly after that, about an hour after that, there was an explosion at the Pentagon. At this point, the Pentagon, the White House, the Capitol, and the Treasury have been evacuated in Washington. In New York, all airports, tunnels, and bridges have been closed. And in Chicago, the Sears Tower has been evacuated. We understand now there has been a secondary explosion on Tower 2. With that, we will leave you and turn it over to Dan Rather.
Get more now from WCBS TV News in New York City. Let's
we know
take
this is terribly difficult for everybody. We're asking that you please stay with us. Hold your shot. Stay with us on audio. We should tell people our crews have been
running from that scene as have everybody, and the entire area has been under an evacuation for some time, and just moments ago.
Here she is, once again, bringing you the inside story. Surrender your beliefs and ideas. Call 556-1250. Talk to Nancy live right now. So without further ado, here she is, Nancy Wolf.
Good morning, I'm Nancy Wolf. Okay, you've heard the news with the Pentagon, the mall and the White House on fire. The World Trade Center. Because of this, we're going to continue continuous live coverage. CBS News right now. Let's go to Max Thompson in the newsroom.
All right, thanks, Nancy. We understand. We want to tell people that may be going to the airport today to take flights. We just talked to the people at the Charleston International Airport, and we do understand that all flights as of this moment have been held. No flights are being taking off at the airport. So again, we've been told by the people at the Charleston International Airport that all flights are grounded for the moment. So we have Fred Story, TMA's Fred Story, on his way to the airport to find out more information from those people at the airport. But again, we are going to stay with CBS News live continuous coverage. So we're going to go right back now to CBS News for live continuous coverage.
If you live in Battery Park City or any of the other housing developments in that area, you should leave the area. You should evacuate the area and get away from the scene. Right now, police have to determine is whether that explosion was caused from the initial impact of the plane or whether it was something that was exploded on the ground. Generally speaking, for a building to collapse in on itself like that, it would seem to indicate, obviously this is just early speculation, but it would seem to indicate that there could have been an explosion, a bomb planted on the ground that would make the building collapse within itself. But nevertheless, a collapse did happen, and they need to get as many people away from the scene as possible. If you live in the area, if you live in Battery Park City, the best thing that you can do for yourself to keep yourself safe is to leave the area as fast as possible. The important thing now is for people, emergency service people, all the firemen, the policemen, the EMS technicians to be able to get to the scene and to help as many people as possible, people who are still alive and people who possibly could be evacuated from the other World Trade Center building that's next door. They want to minimize the amount of loss of life as much as possible. Again, I can also tell you that the entire nation is on a terrorist alert right now. FBI offices all across the country are on alert. Washington, pretty much all of Washington has been evacuated. The White House, the State Department, the Capitol building, and the Treasury have been evacuated. Here in New York, the UN and the Stock Exchange have been evacuated. And in Los Angeles, it's on tactical alert. They are evacuating buildings in Los Angeles as well, mostly high-glass structures. And the FAA has ordered all airplanes, all airports across the country to close down. There will be no more air traffic because they do not want to allow any more planes to strike a target in our country. That's all for now. Back to you, Lisa and Michael.
All right, Marcia, we've been told that, of course, parents are concerned because there are some schools down there. There are 3 high schools that are down there. We've been told that the students are still inside and they are safe. Of the 3 high schools, we're trying to get the names of those high schools for you in that Lower Manhattan area. But we're
listening to live coverage from New York City. Again, what's just happened is that one of the twin towers of the World Trade Center, folks, this is quite an amazing development. One of the towers has fallen. It has collapsed. That's why we just heard Marcia Kramer of WCBS TV speculate, but very informed speculation, that some explosion must have occurred close to the base of that building of the World Trade Center. Back at 8:45 a.m. Eastern, the other building was hit by an airplane. Then this second building was hit by an airplane at 9:03, just over an hour ago. And now, just a few minutes after 10 a.m., there's only one building of the Twin Towers standing. The other one has fallen. More coverage now from WCBS TV New York.
And it looked like it was maybe a 757, a 767, one of the mid-range commuter planes. Mm-hmm. And it came in low. It was just over the river, just over the tops of the buildings. And then it made a deliberate turn right into the World Trade Center. Mm. And now we were just looking at my neighbors downstairs. That we saw just smoke, this huge amount of smoke when the building collapsed.
Sure, that's what we're seeing now.
And now, and it's been over, I'm in the Carroll Gardens section of Brooklyn, and it's been like snow over here. There's just been pieces of charred paper, whole pieces of paper, shattered pieces of paper, but I did see the second plane. It came in very, very fast from the harbor, and it was going along the East River, and I thought, my God, it's going to brush the Brooklyn Bridge. And then it got just at the World Trade Center and turned, just the wing just bent, just, how do you call that? Dipped, yeah. It just dipped and went right into the building. But it was united, definitely, because it was the two shades of gray with the red stripe along the middle.
Okay, so you're saying United Airlines.
Kyle, we appreciate your insight, though we should reiterate to folks we do not have confirmation on that second plane. We do know that the first one was a 757.
You got to take in this picture, though, Michael, as you look live from Chopper 2. All of Lower Manhattan billowing in smoke, in white and gray and black smoke. The entire Lower Manhattan covered in what is a catastrophe of enormous magnitude, something that you and I never would imagine we would see in our lifetime.
Just moments ago, one of the towers collapsing on top of itself. Marcia Kramer with more now from the newsroom. Marcia?
Well, we now have a report that when that tower collapsed, it may have collapsed on another building, and that building is now...
Harold, exactly where are you in filing this report?
Dan, I'm at a subway station. I just ran down the stairs. I didn't even look at it. It's right around the corner from the World Trade Center, and I'm kind of waiting for that smoke and debris to blow away to go back upstairs. But it's just an unbelievable situation here.
Well, Harold, if I may, take a deep breath, take a series of deep breaths, and then let me ask you, have you seen any indication that would tend to confirm these reports, which have been growing in intensity, that a section of the World Trade Center has collapsed onto the street below? Do you see any confirmation of that in any direction?
That is true, Dan. That's what we were all running from. We heard the building coming down, and that's what we were running from. Literally, people ran out of their shoes trying to get out of the way of this thing.
Well, one can certainly understand that. So Harold Dow, our man on the scene, reports that he can confirm that a section, we do not know how large a section of one of the World Trade Center towers has collapsed into the street below. Now, for those of you who are joining us in progress, it's Dan Rather at CBS News World Headquarters in New York with Russ Mitchell at my side here, covering a breaking news situation. Two airplanes, one just before 9 o'clock Eastern Time, the other shortly later. One each crashed into one each of the World Trade Center buildings here in New York.
And from Dan Rather in New York City, live coverage now from WCBS Radio New York.
Let's hear. Keys and Sean Adams checking in from the area inside that smoke, trying to breathe and run at the same time. 50,000 people work at the World Trade Center. Hopefully, many of them got a chance to leave the building safely during the hour or so after the North Tower was first hit by the plane. It was, what would you say, roughly an hour before the building apparently collapsed.
It all started at about 10 minutes of 9. The first tower was hit by a plane. About 18 minutes later, a second tower was hit by a second plane. Of course, we're talking 9 o'clock in the morning. Office staffs are coming in, or on their way in. The building is likely to be humming with activity at that time. We don't really have much word about injuries, except we do know there have been fatalities. People were seen falling from the buildings, from the towers, and now, of course, one of the towers has absolutely collapsed right at the site. Tom Kaminsky is in Chopper 880, keeping an eye on things for us, or at Chopper 880. Are you allowed to fly now?
We are absolutely not allowed to fly at this point. Flying around here that we have seen some emergency aircraft that are making their way in. We are not allowed.
Let's go back now to CBS News correspondent Dan Rather in New York, where two of these explosions took place.
As the collapse happened, I'm sure you're seeing in the video, began to roll our way, and that is when the crowd went wild. People just began to run. Our live trucks shut down. Crews were running. Reporters were running. People were running, and the cops literally were just waving their arms saying, go, go, go. We are inside the school right now, actually inside a small room, trying to stay clear of the crowds that are trying to get out of the way, and also the evacuation of this school. School officials here are trying to get everybody out of the building in an orderly fashion as quickly as possible. But again, there is so much confusion.
Live coverage from CBS News. We now have word from the Reuters news agency that at least one of the planes involved in the New York crash into the World Trade Center complex was American Airlines Flight 11 that was meant to be headed from Boston to Los Angeles, apparently hijacked. Perhaps 3 planes were hijacked today because the other World Trade Center building was hit, and then the Pentagon. Let's get more from CBS News.
CBS News Update. I'm Howard Ehrenstein.
2 airplanes have crashed into the World Trade Center in an apparent terrorist attack on our country.
President Bush reacting to
apparent terrorist attack just an hour or two ago. WCBS airborne reporter Tom Kaminsky says most of one of the towers at the World Trade Center appears to have collapsed.
Oh my We just witnessed some kind of secondary follow-up explosion on the World Trade Center number 2, the one that is on the south that is difficult to make out through the debris and smoke, but it does appear that a portion, the top portion of the building, has collapsed down to the streets below.
There's a report that one of the planes that hit the World Trade Center was hijacked from Boston. The FAA has now grounded all flights nationwide, the first time that's happened. In the last hour, a third plane has crashed into the Pentagon here in Washington. CBS News reporter Tom Foti was watching from a distance.
I suddenly saw the large eruption of black, dark smoke from the vicinity of the Pentagon. I didn't realize, of course, at that point that it was the Pentagon itself, but the first thought that came into my head was that it's too much of a coincidence to assume that this had nothing to do with what is going on in New York.
CBS News correspondent Peter Mayer is at the White House.
The White House has been evacuated. Startled and grim-looking Secret Service officers shouted at staffers and reporters to leave immediately. Just before the evacuation, we were told that senior officials had gathered in the Situation Room to monitor the rapidly developing events.
CBS News Update, I'm Howard Ehrenstein.
And we have word from New York now that all trading on the New York Stock Exchange has been canceled, at least for now. The trading day did not start at 9:30 a.m. Eastern Time. Let's get more coverage from the CBS television network now, anchored by Dan Rather.
Now, let me underscore that New York is not burning. One section of New York has had a terrible thing happen, what President Bush has called an apparent terrorist attack. And in Washington, D.C., an apparent terrorist attack. I underscore the word apparent terrorist attack on the Pentagon. CBS News veteran Defense Department correspondent David Martin is on the telephone from the area. David, do you hear us?
The White House.
Our live coverage from CBS News.
Some difficulty bringing in David Martin. These pictures from outside the Pentagon or of people who...
So in the Washington area, in Arlington, Virginia, the Pentagon, that is the Defense Department, has been hit by an airplane. There's a security alert at the White House and at the Capitol building. Let's go to New York City now, where the World Trade Center was hit and one of the towers has collapsed. Back to WCBS TV New York.
A lot of the effort is put into response. What, aside from getting all your emergency personnel to the scene, can you possibly do as we look at it still unfolding live in front of you? The only remaining World Trade Center tower still standing. The second one has collapsed not too long ago. What can you do aside from just getting your emergency crews to a scene?
Well, there are two things going on right now. One is this is a crime scene, and the FBI obviously is in charge of the crime scene investigation as well as the police. That probably is not taking precedence at the moment over the rescue efforts. But nonetheless, they're there. They're collecting whatever information they can. And right now, you can imagine all of our intelligence agencies, both domestic and overseas, are tapping every source.
Let's hear what Jim Stewart has. Correspondent Jim Stewart covers the law enforcement beat for CBS News. Jim?
The additional targets, if in fact someone is targeting sites in the nation's capital. We are told that the FAA has grounded all flights, all domestic flights in the United States. One building that has not closed down is the FBI. The FBI has established an emergency command post in the center of its building. It's a contained area that is presumably safe from bombs, they believe, and FBI officials have been there now for the last 2 hours trying to sort out exactly what is going on. I can tell you, Dan, that the working theory here is that this is the work of terrorists. They specifically believe this is the work of Osama bin Laden. This is pure speculation at the moment. As recently as yesterday, Dan, when we were making our rounds on what the latest terrorist threats were in the United States and abroad, there was no hint whatsoever that there was a threat against any domestic target in the United States. There had not been any domestic intercepts of messages. There had been no sense that there were people here who should not be here. The feeling was that there were threats against targets overseas, but not here in the United States. They tell me, frankly, that there is a roadmap, a blueprint, if you will, for precisely what happened today. And that was signed by Ramzi Youssef, This is the bomber who was involved in the World Trade Center originally and who had plans to hijack aircraft and target buildings in the United States.
Good morning. This is Nancy Wolf. As you can hear, it's continuous live coverage with CBS. The World Trade Center has been hit. One tower has collapsed. The Pentagon has been hit. The FAA has grounded all flights. The only building left open in Washington, D.C. is the FBI building. With that, let's go to Mac Thompson in our WTMA newsroom. Mac Thompson?
Thanks, Nancy. We just have a little bit of information we'll want to share with you locally. As we may have, or rather, as we told you just a few minutes ago, the Air Force and the airport have been put into special operation mode. We understand all flights at the airport have been grounded. The FAA across the country has grounded all airplanes. So again, if you were trying to get out of the airport today, for right now, you're not going to be able to because all airplanes have been grounded at the Charleston International Airport. TMA's Judy Harold is also with us here in the news center. Her husband works at the Air Force Base and has some information about what's going on there. Judy?
Actually, Mac, this is at Spa War. The original urgency came down as Bravo, ThreatCon Alpha. ThreatCon Alpha was the original recommendation that's set by the region. Then they came back after that and lowered it to Bravo. That's the second highest alert. And by that means that there is certainly a higher sense of security. They've moved vehicles away from the immediate area of the buildings. And there are, of course, more security at the gates. And that's at all the military bases in our area.
So we're at the second highest level.
Bravo.
Okay, and that means again that what has happened to the people who work at Spa War and probably at other facilities at the Air Force Base?
Well, they're still certainly on base. They're still on duty. They have had to move any vehicles that were close to the buildings further away in the event of there being any kind of an explosion in something like that in one of the cars. So they've moved vehicles away. They've heightened the security on base. They've heightened the security at the gates. So it's going to be difficult, to put it lightly, to get on the base.
Okay, thanks. And again, ladies and gentlemen, you have to please bear with us because things are changing very rapidly. But again, no airplanes are being allowed to leave the airport. Second highest alert status at Spa War. Nancy, let's go back to you to wrap it up, and then we'll go back to CBS News.
Okay, again, as you hear, continuous live coverage, and we don't know how long this will be going on. The World Trade Center has been hit. One of the towers has collapsed. The Pentagon has been hit. It's on fire. The White House is being evacuated. The Capitol is being evacuated. All buildings, actually in Washington, D.C., have been closed. The FAA has grounded all flights, and the only building left open is the FBI in Washington, D.C. Again, I'm Nancy Wolf. Let's go back to CBS News.
We're being evacuated here from the building, and I'll just tell you real quickly, when that collapse happened, if it had been on our side of the building, we would have been covered with that debris. That collapse spread far and wide, and the crowds that were nearby to look at this, I don't think we're far enough from the scene. Now, I'm inside a school, which is 3-4 blocks from where this whole disaster happened, and they were methodically trying to get the kids out of here and get them out of here fast. They saw the rolling smoke and the debris coming toward the school, and it was not just a matter of being, a couple of yards away from it. It was get the kids out of here to a different place and quickly. Get your classes together and get them out of here and meet somewhere else. And they had the intercom system going wild here. Cops were running through the halls, and Byron and I were able to get into a small office here where we could get to a phone. But right now we are in an area that is completely evacuated, and we're talking to the NYPD right now about what to do and where to be at this point. I don't know if they're going to let us stay on this phone, but I will tell you, and I'm sure, Dan, as you've been reporting, 50,000 people work at the World Trade Center complex, and at this point there is a severe fear of loss of life at this point and massive casualties. You've got traffic at a complete standstill. And obviously flights in the area have been suspended. We've got a cop here on the scene. Were you actually here? Were you here when this happened, officer?
Yes, I just know that it was set on fire. Tell me exactly where you were and what you saw.
Can you do that?
A live
the cop
report
right now
from
is
the streets around the World Trade Center. That's CBS News correspondent Mika Brzezinski. Both towers were hit by airplanes. One airplane at 8:45 a.m. Eastern, another at 9:03. And one of the towers of the World Trade Center has collapsed. And the Pentagon's been hit by a plane. Let's get the latest now from CBS News in New York.
CBS News Update, I'm Nick Young. What President Bush calls an apparent terrorist attack has devastated New York City's World Trade Center. About 1 hour ago, in separate crashes, planes struck the two towers of the Trade Center. Kyle Beard watched as the second jet crashed into one of the towers.
I saw this second plane. I saw it coming in from the harbor, and it was United, and it looked like it was maybe a 757, a 767, one of the mid-range commuter planes. And it came in low. It was just over the river, just over the tops of the buildings, and it made a deliberate turn right into the World Trade Center.
A spokeswoman for the Flight Attendants Union is quoted as saying one of the planes was an American Airlines jet on a flight from Boston to Los Angeles. Within an hour of the crashes, a third explosion brought the 110-story Tower Number 2 crashing into the street. CBS News correspondent Harold Dow's near the site.
It is a surreal and devastating scene over here, something like I've never seen before.
We have more from WCBS TV reporter John Slattery.
People started screaming. Many people started crying. There were people hugging each other. And every time they saw a person jump to his death, there were people who were just grabbing hold of each other and sobbing and wiping their faces and wiping their tears. It's an unbelievable scene here.
It is unclear how many people have been killed and injured. And in Washington, another apparent attack has triggered a fire at the Pentagon. Forced evacuation of not only the Pentagon, but the White House, Capitol, and other government buildings. And as a security precaution, the FAA's Laura Brown says all planes in the U.S. have been grounded.
There is a national ground stop in place. That means no aircraft are taking off right now. Airplanes that are in the air will land at the discretion of the pilot and the airline involved.
President Bush, who was in Florida when the attacks began, is now airborne. Let's go live to CBS News correspondent Mark Knoller. Mark, given the situation, do we know whether Mr. Bush or where he's headed?
Well, we presume he is headed back to Washington, but we don't know if he lands at Andrews Air Force Base. That would normally be the case for Air Force One, where the president would go. If the White House has been evacuated and the Secret Service deems that the White House is still a prospective target of an attack, it is impossible to think they would allow the president to go there. There are certainly safe houses the president can be taken to, but we don't know what the plans are. Mr. Bush is still airborne aboard Air Force One on his way from Sarasota, Florida, where he had been on the second day of an education swing. He had been at a elementary school here in Sarasota when he learned of the crashes into the World Trade Center in New York. He scrubbed a speech on reading that he was to give. He did make a statement calling this an apparent terrorist attack, a national tragedy, a difficult moment. He announced that he had spoken with the vice president, with the governor of New York State, with the director of the FBI, and he had ordered the full resources of the federal government to conduct a full-scale investigation to hunt down those responsible for this act. The president said terrorism against our nation will not stand.
That's CBS News correspondent Mark Knoller. We have late word from Washington that in addition to the other evacuations, the State Department has been evacuated. Are these apparent attacks the work of terror mastermind Osama bin Laden? CBS News correspondent Jim Stewart says it is inevitable he's the focus of government attention.
They've been wondering when and if he will strike again, and they only believed it was a matter of time. And I believe that today that is going to be their first suspicion.
CBS News Update. I'm Nick Young.
Our coverage continues here from CBS News. I'm Dan Raviv in Washington, where there's a major...
You are listening to continuous live coverage from CBS News of a possible terrorist attack at the World Trade Center, possibly at the Pentagon. This is News Talk 1250 WTMA.
Frankly, our security people around in uniform and with guns looking up, afraid that there could be another hijacked plane up above. And the same is true at the Pentagon, but even worse, because the Defense Department across the Potomac River in Arlington, Virginia, has, in fact, been hit. There's a report now that there's been a bomb explosion, in fact, not far from the State Department in Washington, D.C. There had been evacuations at all these major buildings. We join now the CBS television network where Dan Rather is anchoring.
To prove something would hit these targets.
This is Russ Mitchell.
And just like the World Trade Center, by the way, were the tallest buildings in the world before they were displaced by the Sears Tower in Chicago, which has also been evacuated this morning.
In that last attack on the World Trade Center, the terrorist attack for which the attackers were tracked down and convicted and imprisoned, at least some of them, the plan at that time by the terrorist planners was a series of attacks they intended to attack not only the World Trade Center, but also the United Nations and at least one of the tunnels leading into New York City. Now, what's happened this morning on the prima facie case so far is that this was a coordinated series of attacks which succeeded with the World Trade Centers and with the Pentagon. Now, from the scene, you heard Mika Brzezinski earlier report that she saw people literally running out of their shoes, or I think it was Harold Dow who reported that. Let me pause and say that a car bomb has exploded outside the State Department in Washington. So in Washington, something has hit the Pentagon. Witnesses say they believe an aircraft crashed into the Pentagon.
That's Dan Rather.
And there have been
That's Dan Rather speaking from New York. Also here in Washington, what's said to be a car bomb has exploded just outside the State Department. That's from senior federal sources. Let's join CBS affiliate WUSA TV in Washington.
Describe what happened when we had to rush off a little while ago.
Yes.
This reporter's in the Pentagon area where a fire continues to burn.
You can call this a rumor, but FBI on the scene at the Pentagon told everybody to leave the area because there was concern of a hijacked plane that might be coming in this direction.
Hold on.
We know.
Hey, Dave?
Yes.
We just got this bulletin from the Associated Press. A car bomb explodes outside the State Department.
A car bomb, again, not an airplane. That from WUSA TV. This from the Reuters news agency. All international flights that are heading to the United States have been diverted to Canada. This has never taken place. Again, concern about hijacked planes, concern that has closed airports all over the nation. President Bush is in the air right now aboard Air Force One. He was visiting Florida when these incidents took place. And if you're just joining us, let's recap. At 8:45 a.m. Eastern Time, one of the twin towers of the World Trade Center in New York City was hit by an airplane that, according to witnesses, seemed to be deliberately steered into the World Trade Center, hitting it around the 90th floor, causing a fire and a lot of smoke, and without doubt casualties, though we still don't have numbers. 18 minutes later, just after 9 a.m. Eastern, another airplane hit the other building of the World Trade Center, and an hour after that, that building collapsed. That 110-story building in what's called Lower Manhattan in the financial district has collapsed, causing injuries on the ground. We're getting CBS News reporters and correspondents to the scene to find out just what happened to people there. And in the Washington, D.C. area, an aircraft hit part of the Pentagon, which is technically in Arlington, Virginia. The Defense Department hit by a plane. Now, at the same time, the White House, the Capitol, the State Department, other government buildings were evacuated for safety's sake. We have a report a few minutes ago of a car bomb exploding outside the State Department in Washington. Let's go now to CBS News correspondent Cami McCormick, who is in Lower Manhattan, New York City. Cami, what do you see?
Well, Dan, just a short while ago, we saw the tower, one of the towers of the World Trade Center collapse. I remember looking up and seeing what looked like a huge cloud of black smoke. There were papers and debris billowing in the air. And then within just a second or two, it was gone. There's thousands of people on the streets down here. They were all stunned. Some of them were crying. People trying to catch their breaths. There's no way to get in and out of this area. The subways have closed down, the bridges and tunnels. So there are a lot of people just walking the streets here, looking up into the sky to see what's left of the World Trade Center.
The information that we are. I want you to take a look at what's happening right now. That is a live picture.
That's a live picture too. That's World Trade Center 2 has just collapsed.
Fire department might have tried to clear the
That's the second. Oh my God! To collapse.
We are now looking at the collapse of the second of the World Trade Towers.
Plan for that building after the World Trade Center bombing several years ago. You do have to worry about the emergency personnel that were in the building, probably around the building at the time of all the following explosions.
CBS News correspondent Cami McCormick live in New York. Let's go to our Pentagon correspondent David Martin. He's not in the building because it's been evacuated after being struck by an aircraft. David Martin.
Perhaps 10 or 12 people who were injured, some of them seriously enough to require...
We're going to interrupt you, David Martin, and come back here to New York because the second tower in the World Trade Center is teetering and looks like it may be in the process of collapsing. The second World Trade Center tower just had another explosion, we can't call it a secondary explosion, and appears to be in the process of collapsing.
It is quite an amazing sight now. The lower part of Manhattan Island, the southern part of Manhattan, which normally has twin towers of the World Trade Center, right now appears to have... to be frank, it's hard. No, it was hard to tell in the smoke, but the second tower has a few minutes ago collapsed.
tous et tous.